welcome to this special show, the Infosys Journey with Sudha Murty and NR Narayana Murthy. Words cannot describe how privileged and happy we feel to have not one, but two icons of India with us right here on Moneycontrol. Infosys founder NR Narayana Murthy, he needs absolutely no introduction. And Sudha Murty, one of India's most popular authors, philanthropist. And today we are going to discuss the Infosys journey with both of them. If you look at Infosys, it began on a wing, a prayer, and a sum of $250 in 1981, which was rupees 10,000 then. And now, we are commemorating 40 years of this company. Today it has a market cap of $83 to $84 billion, revenues of over 16 billion, and it has an employee count of 3.35 lakh globally. When you all started up, did you ever imagine it would become this huge, iconic, revered corporation that it is today?
Well, before I say anything else, I must express my deep gratitude to every one of the Infosians and ex-Infosians who have played such an important role in transforming that fuzzy picture of 1981 to this beautiful, masterful art of 2022, that is whatever 84 billion that you spoke about. Having said that, right from the first day that the seven of us sat down in my one-bedroom apartment in Mumbai, after a long discussion of 3 hours, we came to the unanimous conclusion that respect from our stakeholders was going to be our number one target. Respect from customers, respect from employees, respect from investors, respect from government of the land, respect from vendor partners, and respect from the society. So therefore, I have never bothered about numbers like the market cap and profitability, etc. What I have been bothering about the entire 32 years that I was in charge of the company was whether we were obtaining increasing respect from our stakeholders. That's what I was.
Mrs. Murthy, you in a sense are India's most successful angel investor. And I say this because you parted with $250 in 1981 and that sum has given outsized returns today. But when you gave that money to Mr. Murthy, were you worried what was going through your mind? Because this was actually his second venture. He started up Softronics in the mid-70s. It did not take off. He took up a corporate job at Putney. Then the startup bug, I think, bit him again. And you gave him that seed money. So, literally, figuratively, you were the angel and are the angel in his life.
Well, my mother told me when I was married, you should always keep some money, and this money should be used only in emergency. Not to buy sari, not to buy gold or anything, in emergency. And I used to keep every month some money from Murthy than my salary, and without Murthy's knowledge, in a box. And it was 10,250. When Murthy described the importance of software revolution, along with history of the, why we lost revolution, etc., I said, well, what is this emergency if I consider? Here is a young man, he has dreams. Whether it will happen, fulfill or not, I do not know. But I knew he was a hard-working person. and he wants to do something. I said, this is an emergency. And if I don't give, then throughout his life he will regret. Regret is worse than failure. It doesn't matter, in case he fails, fine, we accept it, and you can take up a job. But regretting, I wish I could have done, that is worse. So I gave him only 10,250, I kept it again inside.
Let me add a little bit to that. See, the reality is the following. What happened was, we were a group of 7 people. 4 of us had our part of the equity, which was really very small. But 3 of my colleagues, I don't want to mention their name because that's not relevant, did not even have that small amount of money. So I didn't want them to feel bad, or I didn't want to start the company with equity only by these guys, by these 4 people. So I hit upon my well-practiced idea of dipping into the pocket of my wife and convinced her to give the entire 10,000, because I didn't want any distinction between individual A and individual B. So that's how, and all these people returned the money in a matter of 6 to 9 months. So it got stuck that she was the angel investor. She was in some sense the angel investor because the other 3 didn't have the money. That's the reality.
Mr. Murthy, what is also very different is that, you started up at the age of 35. These days we hear accounts of students starting up in college hostels, but you started up at the age of 35. You were married by then. You were also a parent, I think. Did that inhibit your risk-taking abilities in any way as an entrepreneur? What was your safety net?
Well, my wife was my safety net. She was much more qualified than me. In fact, much more qualified than all the founders. I mean, if you look at her credentials, her scholarship for PhD, her rank at IASC, all of that, she was clearly, she was number 1. And the fact that she was in India, in one of India's best companies, Telco, itself was my safety net, number 1. Number 2, I have grown up in a house of 8 children, with father being mostly a teacher. So we were not unduly worried about hardship. We were brought up in an environment of hardship. So that was not the thing. Third, my mother brought us up with an independent set of mind. For example, when I went to France, I would write a postcard once in 6 weeks. That's it. She wouldn't know what's happened to me, whether I'm well, not well, etc.
There's no WhatsApp tracking like...
No, nothing of the kind, nothing of. Therefore, I would say that the fact that Sudha had a job which was very well paying, of course she gave it up later because we had to move to Pune. The fact that my family had brought me up with an independent set of mind, the fact that we were quite used to a certain level of hardship is what gave me confidence to go through that. Yeah.
And how did having her by your side, shoulder to shoulder in the initial years help? Because I remember before she stepped away, all of you used to build this company together. And she was there at all the crucial moments for you. Because the entrepreneurial journey can get lonely at the top. So how did having Mrs. Murthy by your side help you during those tough times, the lonely times?
I mean, it was extremely useful. As you know, a leader is very lonely. And he or she will latch on to anybody that supports him or her. All my colleagues were abroad doing what they were best at, project management, design, programming, and all of that. And I was alone in India. Of course, my colleague Raghavan was in India. And I had to get the license, I had to arrange a loan for the computer, I had to change the location, I had to get my court to leave the premises. These were by no means easy ones in 1980s. And whenever I had a problem, I always turned to my wife. Even in 1995, when I took a decision to respectfully decline to renew the contract with a Fortune 10 company, I realized that I will have to probably travel 250 to 300 days in a year. The first person that I called after I took that decision, and before I informed everybody, I called her and said, look, will you be able to handle the children, because I'm going to be, for the next 3 years, I'm going to be working like there is no tomorrow. And she has always been very supportive. Therefore, it is absolutely true that she has been a great supporter of the dream of Infosys and my dream. Yeah.
Would you like to add to that, ma'am?
Oh, what is there? Because I realized a person like Murthy who eats, breathes, drinks Infosys will not have time for any other thing. Second thing, in olden days, people, Munis used to go to, Rishis used to go to forest and do tapas. Today is a modern tapas, that you have to work 24/7 for your company. Then there is a possibility that it may do well. It may do well. And he has to give his best for that. So I accepted it. And I was very fortunate. Downstairs, my parents and my doctor sister stayed. Upstairs, we stayed. So I had the family support of my parents and my sister. So it was not that lonely. They will come, we will eat together, go out together. But Murthy was not there. That's so fine. You have to get something, you have to give something.
You were not bitter about it?
Not at all, even to this day. Never. That's not my nature.
There's no free lunch.
Except mother's love.
That's
true. That's unconditional. But Mr. Murthy, it took you and the other founders a really long time to see any visible sign of economic progress. I mean, over a decade at least. The first decade was a total struggle.
Yeah.
And it took over a decade for you all to, come close to owning a house, owning the good things in life. What kept you all going? Because these days, founders, they sell shares in every funding round, and investors get impatient if there's no exit within a 5-year, 7-year time frame. And you all sort of kept at it.
I have talked about it before, but I'll repeat it once again. I came from a very, from a lower middle class family. Therefore, hardship, penury, suffering, these were not big issues that bothered us. We had learned to enjoy small things in life. And therefore, for us, I'm sure it's the same for my colleagues too, when we walked into the office, when we saw small victories, that gladdened our heart, and that made us say, I will run this marathon the next mile. I think that's the reason why we were never worried about any long-term gratification. However, I must tell you that there was an offer for a couple of $1 million, and all my colleagues they agreed to sell it in some way. However, at the end of that discussion, I said, no, I don't want to sell, because I have gotten used to it. I have lived an austere life, I don't need too much money, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and therefore I'm quite willing to buy from you people. They were all surprised. And Nandan was the first person who came on my side, and then one by one the other people came. And that's when I said, look, from now onwards, we have to be very positive. We should not be tempted by these small, baits. And that's exactly what we did.
It boils down to conviction, in a sense. Your decision to not sell but continue to...
Just to give you an idea, compare that with what it means that $2 million in 1990 was, and now 84 billion. What you are talking about is 1 rupee that we would have got would be 42,000 rupees today. So I think in some sense we took the right decision. I'm very grateful to my younger colleagues for having full faith in me, for having agreed to continue in this journey, and they have benefited. Everybody has benefited. So,
right. Mr. Murthy, you have often described Infosys as your middle child. You have said this before. And it's a child you've actually devoted the most time and attention to. There would be legendary stories about how you would come into campus at 7 a.m. and stay on... 6:20 a.m.
6:20 a.m.
And stay on till 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And this was even, I think, till a decade ago.
No, till 2011.
Right.
Well, actually 2013, 14 too.
So what impact did this have on your family, your marriage, your children? Or is that something an entrepreneur has to do? Because entrepreneurship is very consuming in its intensity, and that's a sacrifice you have to make.
Well, I think entrepreneurship is about daring, it's about courage, it's about sacrifice, it's about deferred gratification, it's about saying most people see things as they are and wonder why I dream of things that never are, and then say why not. So if you want to create something that doesn't exist, it requires a lot of hard work, it requires a lot of commitment, it requires a lot of sacrifice. And as I pointed out earlier, when you see small victories on the path to the great glory, those small victories are what gives you energy, enthusiasm, confidence, happiness, etc. But the real losers in some sense are our children. Both Akshata and Rohan, the reality is that I couldn't spend any time with them. Thanks to Sudha, they were looked after entirely by Sudha. All their credentials, all their accomplishments, their PhD, their Stanford education, everything is due to her. So I cannot claim any part in that at all. That's the reality. That's what I feel bad today. But at that time, no.
Were you and the children okay with it, that Infosys is the middle child and it's a child that needs the most attention?
I used to tell children that one, Akshata and Rohan, Appa is busy, Appa is building Infosys, and it requires time. So don't worry. I always tell, don't worry. And whenever Murthy has time, he has spent that time with children 100%. Take them out, whatever is there. So children were aware, and we worked in such a way that they should not get bored. Because thanks to my parents, they moved from Hubli to Bangalore because of that. So children were aware of what their father do, and father does, and why he is not able to give so much time.
On rare occasions when I came home in time and the children had completed their homework, we would take them to McFast and they would have their pizzas, French fries, or whatever they wanted. And then Rohan would make sure that he got his new He-Man toy And if we didn't get him that, he would lie down on the road at the junction of Church Street and the Brigade Road and saying, no, unless you get me, I won't get up.
And they were good. There was not so much traffic in those days.
So only Rohan was the insistent one. Akshata was okay with
Akshata.
Akshata was
By nature,
very gentle by nature. Rohan is full of empathy, all of that. Now, he is a completely transformed person, very serious, very scholarly and all of that. But at that time, he was the naughty one.
And who's the stricter parent between the two of you, the disciplinarian, and who indulges the children?
Always the mother. No, indulge me. But disciplinarian, in every house, it is the mother. Right?
True.
If the father who spends very little time with children, he feels guilty, and therefore he tries to indulge them in and get them whatever they want. That's a reality.
Actually, I am not a strict mother in a way, because when children say what they want, then I will explain to them why they should not do that. And I had lots of other hobbies that also helped me not to feel lonely. Like I used to write, and I used to teach in a college. Then I used to take their homework. I used to take them out. And I will always explain to children saying that why they should not do. And that worked out well in both cases.
What made Infosys stand out was also its decision to democratize wealth creation. Now we talk about ESOPs, but Infosys instituted ESOPs way back in the 90s, and by some estimates, you've given away 1.3 lakh crore to employees.
Yeah.
There used to be legendary stories about how the peons at Infosys, have become millionaires.
Yeah.
But, how tough was it for all the founders to give up so much of equity? I mean, it's not easy to do.
No, I think by nature, I've always been a very generous person. Even in distributing equity, I gave generous equity to Nandan, Chris, who had hardly 2 years of experience. I gave generous thing to Raghavan, I gave 7% of additional equity of my own to Shibu, Dinesh and Ashok Arora to take their thing from 7% to 10%. Mr. Raghavan gave 3%. So we distributed it. So in other words, first of all, as I said earlier, my younger colleagues were very, very, very nice people. They followed whatever I suggested. They agreed to whatever I suggested. But as far as I was concerned, giving was never an issue, because I grew up as a lower middle class person. And my mother was a very, very generous lady. That's what she taught us right from our childhood. And so there was never an issue of are we giving up this much, etc., etc. All my younger colleagues were very generous, very kind, very, supportive. No, the only negative I have, the only sad thing I have is that has not been repeated in India. That, there's so many software companies, so many other companies. It has never, ever happened. That is what makes me feel somewhat sad. I thought our example would be followed in a bigger way by so many of these smarter entrepreneurs, so many of these big houses, all of that. But no, it's not happening.
But do you think startups at least are doing it differently? Because they do, a part of the salaries, for instance, are paid in ESOPs, then they do buybacks. So are the new age companies perhaps, a little more generous that way?
I don't know, but there is a difference between equity and salary. And my fond hope that I had discussed with Nandan, Mohan, and others when we took this decision was that we would start a trend where compassionate capitalism, an enlightened corporate democracy would become the norm.
Right.
But that has not happened. I think that is a little bit of disappointment for me.
Right. Mrs. Murthy, I must ask you, the man you married, was he very different from the person we know as NR Narayana Murthy? What has changed and not changed about him?
Yeah, when I met him, he was a young man with no responsibility and extremely idealist. Even today, he's an idealist and very carefree. Okay, today he's very, compared to that, very serious, less talkative compared to what he was, in 1974, almost 48 years back. I'm talking. I know him for 48 years. It's quite a long
You all are
period.
set to mark a golden jubilee.
44 years.
48
known
years.
each other for 48 years.
Yes, but married.
Married
44.
for 44, known for 48 years. Yeah.
So what I knew was a young, different person. But what I know now is a different person. But we have many things common. It was not unexpected. Okay, like, oh, Murthy will become money, caring for the money, etc. Those things remain the same. At that time also he was like this. Today also, like helping people, generous, and that has not changed. Love for knowledge, love for reading has not changed. But with time, people do change. They become much more serious. That's what I feel.
But sir, even now, why are you serious? I mean, now
It has
you
become
be
his
happy
DNA.
and carefree.
So it has become a DNA because he has been in Infosys for such a long time, all the time thinking about Infosys. So he became much more. But the basic habits, the basic values, the basic love for knowledge remains the same.
Well, I think when I'm with my children, grandchildren, definitely they bring a lot of joy in us. We go to movies,
When in older,
No, we have been. Only because of COVID we have not been. We enjoy life to the extent it is possible, but definitely because of the enormous responsibility that I had on my shoulders, for so long, I have become somewhat serious. Also, in some way, looking at the environment around us,
they become very philosophical actually.
looking at the fact that India could have done so much more, India could have been so much better in so many areas. Some of it has not happened. Some things have happened. Definitely, there is no doubt.
So it's the idealist in you who kind of makes you serious.
Yeah.
You
I think
always-
it's the idealism in me, the hope in me. I think that is what has made me a little bit serious.
So you all still go for movies, which was the last
Yeah, but now
movie you all-
Netflix is there. Netflix is there. See, olden days we used to buy one book and fight over that who will read first. Now both of us will buy separate copies.
Not a problem.
That is the way we solve that.
But people often talk about couple goals. If you look at millennials and Gen Zs, what were your couple goals from a professional and a personal
No, we
lens?
never had that kind of couple goals. We always care for the family, children, grandchildren, our work, and take our work seriously, passionately. For example, I work much more than before, and Murthy never objects that because he respects my passion, my writing or my travel or depending on my social work, etc. I respected his work when he was working. So we don't have that kind of keep a goal and follow that. We don't belong to that generation. We respect, we give space to each other. That is very important. We give space to each other. We advise to each other, but we do not interfere in each other. And allow each one's passion to excel. And that is probably the best way to be in marriage, I suppose, than owning a person.
Probably you too, you and your husband too follow the same principle. She has never looked into any of my mail. I have never looked into any of her mail.
We don't look into it.
Email, postal mail, nothing. No, I don't open anything. She doesn't open anything. We have followed it right from 1978. And in terms of, if not couple goal, the common goal has always been the bringing up of our children with competence and values. That primary responsibility she has taken, and she has done a very good job. There's nothing to complain on that. And I was, for most part, I was a silent, distant watcher. But now they've all grown up, so they don't need me. So
There's no place to live.
We're talking about 4 decades of Infosys, and it's sort of cemented its place as the symbol of corporate governance and ethical wealth creation at scale. But how would you like Infosys to be remembered for the next 2 decades? How can it continue to be an enduring corporation?
Well, no, I like it to be a place where people of different nationalities, different races, different religious beliefs, different regions, different economic strata come together and work as a team with courtesy, dignity, and competition in an environment of intense competition to add greater and greater value to our customers and other stakeholders day after day after day. That's what I attempted, and in some ways I did succeed when I was in charge of Infosys. And I hope the future leaders would also think. What that also means is that there should not be any governance deficits, because then if there is a governance deficit, then some stakeholders are getting affected.
Correct.
So that's what I say.
Right. And, final couple of questions. I always wonder what keeps you all motivated to keep working in your 70s, because these days, there is this new term called FIRE, financially independent retire early. So people want to retire when they are 40 and 45 and 50, but you all continue to keep working at the same pace. What keeps you going? There should be something that keeps you going. Perhaps Mr. Murthy, you can start, and Mrs. Murthy, you can add.
Blessed are those people who have continuous work. I feel that way. Second thing, in my case, children make me to write books. When I see small children, I said I must tell them some story. That keeps me busy in writing. Poor people keep me to do my social work more, because I feel I have a responsibility towards them. As simple as that.
Mr. Murthy?
My dreams, my hopes, and my aspirations are that we will see during my lifetime a governance both at the state level and the central level that is conducive to the betterment of the poorest child in the remotest village in terms of basic education, healthcare, nutrition, shelter, and the hope that that child's child will have a better future.
Got it.
I know that is a very lofty goal, but that's what keeps me going. That's what brings me enthusiasm when I'm down. When I see something good, when I see a Pandu working like there is no tomorrow, I get, when I see you working with so much of enthusiasm, that's what brings some confidence to me, some hope to me. I think that's the thing.
So we are coming to the end of 2022. What are your plans for 2023? Do you all have travel plans, vacation plans, any big goals that you all want to achieve?
I always accept the way God gives me and enjoy in that situation. And I always believe that whatever situation you are into that, excel in that. So that is the way I look at it. 2023, I want to bring chapter books for children and many small stories I'm planning to bring out.
Mr. Murthy?
Obviously, meeting our grandchildren sometime next year is
So you will be
one
going
thing that
to
I look forward to.
10 Downing Street.
Would love to see your grandchildren. Maybe
Well, they could come here, whatever it is.
easier for us if it is in India.
Second, perhaps with a close friend of ours, we may go out of Bangalore and spend a few days in Mysore and Kabini and all of that. He's a very close friend of ours. So that's the short-term stuff. Other than that, no, nothing.
On that note, thank you both very much for talking to us, and congratulations on your success. And here's wishing you both lots of good health and happiness in the decades to come. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Well, same to you and to Srikanth and the children. Wonderful.
Thank you
And of
so
course, your parents. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.